And good morning, everyone. The next teaching from Rebbe Yehuda Nasi, and the first mission of the second chapter of Pirkei Avot goes as follows: reckon the loss that a mitzvah entails against its reward, and the benefit derived from an avera, a sin, against the loss that it brings. Well, it's clearly the case that on occasion, performing a particular mitzvah, the requirement to perform a mitzvah is going to entail a certain amount of effort and sometimes even quite a lot of money. And there's going to be circumstances because of the effort or because of the money in which a person will be tempted simply to pass it by and to say, you know, it's just not worth that degree of effort. There are other things that I can do, there are other mitzvot, but this particular mitzvah, it's just going to cost too much emotionally, or it's going to cost too much financially, or it's going to cost too much in terms of time or some other consideration. And similarly, when it comes to doing something which is inappropriate, there is definitely a benefit on occasion because you do something which is, very pleasurable, something which is going to bring immediate pleasure to a person, and you're tempted to do that because of its benefit. There's a benefit that accrues in the performance of that act that is highly attractive on occasion. And what Rebbe is really saying over here is that people act predominantly on instinct. We go for the immediate benefit. If something is too hard, we avoid it. If something is pleasurable, we go for it. And we never really think through the consequences of what we're doing. So what he's saying to us is you have to take the long-term view. You have to, when you perform an action, whether one that is a good action or, God forbid, a bad action, think not about the action itself, but think about it in its broadest context. Think about its consequences. And when you think in those terms, it doesn't, there's, irrespective of how much it costs to do a mitzvah, emotionally or financially or in terms of time, it can never equate the reward that comes, which has to be in some sense immeasurable compared to the amount of time or effort or money that went into it. And similarly, when it comes to doing something which is inappropriate, we do it because it's urgent, because there's the moment, because it's going to bring a tremendous benefit, because we are thoughtless, because we just do it for the pleasure of it. And says Rebbe, just think about the consequences. No matter how much pleasure you're going to get, short-term pleasure from this action, in terms of its long-term consequences for your neshama, for your future, for your place in the world to come, whatever the other considerations are, when you put that in balance, it doesn't matter how much pleasure you get from it, it can never equate to the destructive dimension, the loss that this action brings. And says Rabbi that if one keeps in mind this particular formula, that every time one is about to do a mitzvah, or when one is tempted to do an avera, if you think about the consequences, he said it will help enormously in directing a person in their life. That's his formula for being able to control one's actions in an appropriate way.